Cincinnati this past weekend, and the theme of our meeting, this is the Nationalist Black Leadership Coalition. The theme of our meeting was, what would conscious black people do in a post-Bush / Cheney / McCain administrative era? In other words, it didn't matter to us which of these two challenges for the presidency won or lost. The fact of the matter is, conscious black people were going to have to continue to deal with issues that confront black people, irrespective of which one of the candidates won or which one of them lost. So we wanted to talk about what things were likely to look like, I should say, after the election was over. Well, now we've had an opportunity to see. We have witnessed the absolute euphoria of black people in particular, but other people as well, to the fact that for the first time in this nation's history, a person of African descent has been elected almost by acclamation to the presidency of the United States. Now, on the surface of it, that would seem, and in many ways genuinely is, a very positive and constructive thing. However, for those of us who know that we have to stay vigilant and continue to be watch persons on the wall, we know that we cannot afford to allow our emotions to get the better of us in this specific time frame, and given what is going on, and that while we can enjoy the warm feelings that most of us, if not all of us, genuinely have, because we recognize the significance of this historical moment. It is, in fact, a historical moment. And for me, as a practical black nationalist and Pan-Africanist, that is probably the biggest thing about it, is the historical significance. I'm not under any delusions whatsoever with respect to what we can expect from President Barack Obama. First and foremost, I know only too well that no individual puts himself into the position of President of the United States. If that were the case, we wouldn't have, not only would we not have a so-called democracy, but we wouldn't even have a representative Republican form of government. This wouldn't even be a republic, in other words. It would be either a dictatorship or whatever the case might be under the circumstance. It could be a monarchy if a person declared himself to be an emperor or a king. So the very fact that a person has to be part of a mechanism, an organized, very well organized and very well financed mechanism, in order to aspire to and attain the position of president in this country, should say something to black people about just how much we can expect this individual to be able to do for us in particular, because he doesn't call the shots. Now, that's not to put him down, especially since he's a black man. And my particular attitude towards things black is that I would prefer to think that a black man in that position, simply because of the outstanding qualities that he would have to have in order to be selected to be the party's nominee and then to actually win the election, he has got to be one of the most outstanding human beings in this country. Agreed. Because we all know that white folks don't accept anything less than the very best of what black people have to offer whenever they're going to have to make any kind of concessions to us and hire. For example, when we came out of the era, the post-Brown versus the Board of Education era, and they started to impose the requirement on previously segregated white school systems and districts and even universities that they had to begin to enroll or allow blacks to enroll in those schools. Well, the one prerequisite that the white folks put up once they had to concede to that, they fought against it at first, was that only the best students that the black community had produced would be even considered to integrate the white schools. And of course, they weren't going to send their children to integrate black schools. So it was a one-way integrationist thing to begin with, which was a terrible mistake on the part of the black leadership at that time to go for that particular kind of arrangement, because it automatically placed us in a superior versus inferior paradigm. Okay. That their schools were so good that we would go through hell and high water to get our students there, including shipping our students way across town and oftentimes into the suburbs and alien hostile territory just to attend their schools. In contrast, they wouldn't under any circumstances allow their children to be shipped into our neighborhoods. Now later they sort of modified that with the magnet school concept, but even then they imposed very strict requirements on the schools that would be located in black neighborhoods where they would be willing to send their children. Those schools had to be made state-of-the-art. Everything had to be brand new. Extra money had to be spent in those magnet schools in order to make them attractive enough for white people to be willing to send their precious children into these black neighborhoods to attend the schools. So we need to really understand the nature of the power relationship between black people and white people in this country. And once we understand that, or to the extent we understand that, then we will know for a certainty that there isn't much of anything that we have a right to or be realistic about expecting that Barack Obama will be able to do for black people, even if he were willing. Now, the other side of that equation is that we can get an indication of what we might be able to expect from President Barack Obama, from what he offered us during the time when he was candidate Barack Obama. And obviously, one of the things that has been most talked about amongst our people is that candidate Barack Obama carefully and very emphatically avoided any effort to get him to make any kind of promises directly to black people or about issues that anyone could identify as being black issues. In fact, in my 50 years of observing and participating in the partisan electoral process in this country, 50 years, and during that time I have observed and in some cases seen fit to participate in every presidential election during that entire period of time, and in some cases some statewide elections if I had an interest in doing so, and certainly a lot of local elections. But to talk about presidential elections, this is the first time in that period of time, over 50 years now, that a Democratic Party candidate for high elective office, and what I mean by that is either at the national level or state level, that the Democratic Party's candidate for that high elective office did not see fit or feel the need to include even a single plank in his or her platform that was clearly put there as an appeasement or as an inducement to the black community to give us a justification for supporting that particular candidate. Now, keep in mind that it has always been the position in particular of the Democratic Party, since that is the party that comes closest to trying to be an all people's party, whereas the Republican Party has typically been identified with the wealthy and the privileged in this country. But the Democratic Party has the reputation of being the people's party, the party of the little people, of the little man, the working man's party, etc. So they have, and their constituency has been